Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a close look at a piece of tech that's been making some serious waves in the tech world, the AMD Ryzen 7 9800X3D processor.
Oh, a very interesting choice.
It is, and we've got a fantastic review from TechWise Corner as our main source.
Oh, yeah, those guys really know their stuff.
They do. They really break things down in a way that makes
Yeah.
it easy to understand. So
Absolutely.
we're gonna jump into that and see what we can learn about this really cool CPU.
Sounds good. I'm excited to dive into this with you.
Yeah. So just to give our listeners a bit of a teaser, we're going to be talking about some pretty exciting stuff like
Yeah.
the revolutionary 3D V-cache technology.
Oh, that's a big one.
It is, and how it impacts gaming, whether this processor is a good fit for both gamers and content creators,
Right.
and how it stacks up against the competition,
Especially Intel.
especially Intel. Those are always the big
battles, yeah.
battles in the CPU world.
Mm-hmm.
So to kick things off, why don't you give us a quick rundown of the key specs of this beast of a processor?
Okay, so the Ryzen 7 9800X3D, it's built on AMD's Zen 4 architecture.
Okay.
It's an 8-core processor with the 16 threads, so
Right.
that means it can handle a lot of tasks at
Yeah.
the same time.
Simultaneously multitask.
Exactly. It's got a base clock speed of 4.2 gigahertz, but it can boost up to
Wow.
a pretty impressive 5.3 gigahertz when needed.
Okay, so that's
Some serious processing
it
power.
translates to some serious horsepower. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the things that I keep hearing about
Yeah.
is this massive L3 cache.
Oh yeah, that's the start of the show.
It is. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there?
So the Ryzen 7 9800X3D has a whopping 96 millibytes of L3 cache,
96.
which is significantly larger than
Oh, the lumber.
most other processors in its class, and this is thanks to AMD's innovative 3D V-cache technology. Okay, so 96 millibit, that's got to make a difference, but
Right.
I'm not quite clear on how cache size actually impacts performance.
Right. So think of the L3 cache as the processor's
Okay.
short-term memory.
All right,
It stores frequently accessed data.
right,
So the processor doesn't have to go searching for it
gotcha.
in the main memory, which is much slower.
Okay.
But the larger the cache, the more data it can hold,
Right.
and the faster the processor can access it.
So it's like having all of your most used tools right at your fingertips.
Exactly.
Instead of having to dig through a toolbox every time you need something.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
And so, in the case of the Ryzen 7 9800X3D, how does this translate into real-world performance, especially for gamers?
So for gamers, this translates to significantly faster
Okay,
loading times
got it.
and smoother performance, especially in games that are known to be
Okay.
very demanding on the processor.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're talking like
Yeah.
Cyberpunk 2077, Elden Ring, these kind of
Exactly. Those are perfect examples.
Yeah, big open world, lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, very demanding games.
Okay.
And, the review highlights some pretty impressive results in terms of smoother frame rates and fewer stutters.
So no more of that frustrating lag when things get really intense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference in the overall gameplay experience,
I can imagine.
especially in those fast-paced action sequences.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so it sounds like this is a real game changer for gamers who are looking for the best possible experience.
It is.
But does resolution come into play here? Does it matter if I'm gaming at 1080p, 1440p, or even 4K?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So the processor itself
Mm-hmm.
doesn't directly determine the resolution
Okay.
you can game at,
Right.
but it plays a crucial role in maintaining high frame rates,
Okay.
even at higher resolutions.
Okay.
So, when you pair this processor with a powerful graphics card, you can be sure that you can enjoy smooth gameplay,
Okay.
even in the most visually stunning games at 1440p and 4K.
So it's not the only piece of the puzzle,
No,
but it's a really important one
it's a big piece.
if you want to get that high-end experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So for gamers who want to have the best possible experience, this sounds like a real contender.
It is. It is.
But what about those of us who use our computers for more than just gaming?
Mm-hmm.
Can this chip handle demanding productivity tasks as well?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. So while gaming is,
I thought all that focus on gaming meant compromises were made elsewhere.
it's definitely a major focus for this processor.
Okay.
don't think for a second that it's a one-trick pony.
Gotcha.
It's also a powerhouse when it comes to content creation and other
So tell me more.
demanding workflows.
Okay, yeah.
So remember those 8 cores
Yes.
and 16 threads we talked about earlier?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are essential for
Multitasking.
multitasking and handling those complex processes.
Mm-hmm.
And that massive L3 cache isn't just for gaming.
Right.
It also benefits applications like video editing software, 3D modeling programs, and anything else that requires quick access to large amounts of data.
So it's kind of like a sports car that can also haul a trailer when you need it to?
Exactly.
That's a good analogy.
It's a versatile machine.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. So give me an example of, how this would translate into a content creation workflow.
Yeah, so imagine like editing a 4K video project in Adobe Premiere Pro without those
the bane of my existence.
frustrating rendering delays, right?
Yes.
Or picture yourself seamlessly switching between, Blender for 3D modeling and DaVinci Resolve for video editing without your system breaking a sweat.
All right, so it can handle it.
That's the kind of real-world performance boost
Gotcha.
this processor can offer.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now, would it be fair to compare this
Okay.
to something like a Ryzen 9 or a Threadripper processor?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's not really meant to be a direct replacement for those high core count processors. Those are beasts designed for professionals who need to handle extremely demanding tasks.
Right.
Like rendering complex 3D animations or processing massive data sets.
Right, the really heavy stuff.
Yeah, the really, really heavy lifting.
Okay, so this is more of a...
But for most content creators, especially those who also enjoy gaming, the Ryzen 7 9800X3D strikes a really nice balance between high-end gaming performance and solid productivity capabilities.
So it's hitting that sweet spot for a lot of people, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's a great all-arounder.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right, now I have to admit, this whole 3D V-Cache technology is super fascinating.
It's pretty cool.
Can we dive a little bit deeper into how that actually works?
Of course. It's pretty ingenious, actually.
Okay.
So imagine stacking layers of cache memory vertically on top of the CPU die.
Okay.
Kind of like building a microscopic skyscraper.
Whoa, I love that visual.
Of performance.
Yeah.
That's essentially what 3D V-Cache does.
So instead of spreading the cache out horizontally, they're building it upwards.
Yep.
What's the advantage of that?
So this allows AMD to pack in a lot more L3 cache without increasing the physical size of the chip.
Gotcha. So it's not just about brute force. It's about clever design and efficient use of space.
It is. It's a great example of how innovation can lead to significant performance gains without relying solely on raw power.
Right.
And the results are, undeniable. Reduced latency, because the CPU can access data faster.
Okay.
Improved throughput, meaning it can handle more instructions simultaneously.
Okay.
And better utilization of each processing cycle.
Yeah.
Leading to increased efficiency.
That makes sense. Now, how does this 3D V-Cache technology compare to what Intel is doing? Because they're the main competitor in this space, right?
They are. They've got some incredibly powerful processors as well. The review specifically mentions the Intel Core i7-13700K, which is a very capable chip.
Yeah.
But, when it comes to gaming and applications that rely heavily on cache performance, the Ryzen 7 9800X3D with its 3D V-Cache has a noticeable edge.
Interesting. So even though Intel's known for its high performance, AMD is really pulling ahead in some areas with this this new cache technology.
Yeah, it's a testament to how, architectural innovation can sometimes trump raw processing power.
Right. Yeah.
But, it's important to remember that both AMD and Intel are constantly pushing the boundaries
No, for sure.
of processor technology.
Yeah.
So it's always a dynamic and evolving landscape.
It's a really exciting time to be following the CPU world.
It is.
Yeah. Speaking of pushing boundaries, I'm curious about the power consumption of this chip.
Okay.
Because more power often means more heat, right?
Yeah, definitely.
How does the 9800X3D handle that?
So that's where AMD's 5mm process really shines.
Right.
This chip is surprisingly power efficient for the performance it delivers.
Okay.
You get a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah, without cranking up the energy bill.
Yeah, without having to worry too much about your energy bill.
Okay, so that's good. I'm guessing all that extra cache could still generate some heat, though, right? Even with the efficient design.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Okay.
So, while the 5mm process helps a lot, the additional cache can lead to slightly higher temperatures.
Okay, so what's the solution? Do I need to invest in some, like, crazy industrial-grade cooling system?
No.
To keep this thing from overheating?
You don't need to go overboard.
Okay.
A high-quality cooling solution is definitely recommended, but you don't need anything too crazy.
All right, so what are we talking?
Robust,
like a
air cooler or a 240mm AIO liquid cooler will do an excellent job of keeping those temperatures
that makes sense.
in check.
So it's definitely something to be mindful of, but it's not like a deal breaker.
No, not at all.
If you're thinking about getting this processor.
Exactly.
Okay, good to know. Now let's talk about compatibility.
All right.
What kind of motherboard and RAM do I need for this processor?
So the Ryzen 7 9800X3D is designed for AMD's AM5 platform, which is their latest and greatest platform for desktop PCs.
Gotcha. So it's the newest kid on the block, basically.
Yes.
Okay, so that means you'll need a compatible AM5 motherboard.
Exactly.
And DDR5 RAM.
DDR5 RAM.
Okay. Which is, again, like the newest generation of RAM.
Yes.
Okay, so this might be a bit of a step up.
It might be.
For people who are running older hardware.
Right.
If they're thinking about building a system around the CPU.
Yeah, it could involve some upgrades.
Yeah.
For sure.
Is it worth the investment, though? What are the advantages of this AM5 platform?
So the AM5 platform is packed with features that make it a really compelling choice for a future-proof build. So along with supporting DDR5 RAM, you also get PCIe 5.0, which is the latest standard for graphics cards and other high-speed components.
Okay, so
you also have USB 4 support.
It's ready for
Incredibly fast data transfer speeds. You've got improved power delivery to the CPU. And enhanced connectivity features overall.
So it's not just about the processor itself, it's about stepping into like a whole new ecosystem with a lot of potential.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so, and of course, upgrading to a new platform like AM5 does involve some cost considerations.
It does.
Especially since
that's right, Vince.
DDR5 RAM is still relatively new and can be
a little bit
pricey compared to the older stuff. But for users who want a cutting-edge system that's built to last and is ready for that next generation of components, it's definitely something to think about.
It's worth considering for sure.
Yeah, okay. All right, now the big question. How does the Ryzen 7 9800X3D stack up against the competition?
Right.
We talked about Intel a little bit, but let's get into the specifics. What are the main rivals for this chip?
As we mentioned, Intel's Core i7 13700K is a strong contender.
Okay.
And then their i9 13900K is another powerful option.
Okay.
You know, Intel processors often boast higher clock speeds.
Right.
Which can give them
that's what they're known for, right?
An advantage.
Raw power.
In some heavily multi-threaded applications.
Right.
For sure.
Okay, so there are definitely situations where Intel still kind of holds the crown. When it comes to like just raw processing power.
Absolutely.
But remember what we talked about with that 3D V-cache technology? In gaming and other applications, where cache performance is
crucial.
Really crucial. The Ryzen 7 9800X3D really shines. And it manages to do all this at a very competitive price point, which makes it even more attractive.
Absolutely.
For budget-conscious,
especially for
gamers and creators.
Yeah, budget-conscious gamers and creators.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily a case of one being better than the other. It's more about choosing the right tool.
Exactly.
For the job.
It's about finding the right...
Considering your needs.
Yeah, the right fit for your needs.
The priorities.
Absolutely. And your budget.
Absolutely. And it sounds like the Ryzen 7 9800X3D is a really well-rounded option.
It is.
For people who are...
It's a great balance.
The versatile. Sweet spot.
Yeah, price perform.
Power efficiency.
Power efficiency.
All the things.
Yeah.
This has been a fantastic overview.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm already learning so much.
Good. I'm glad.
About this processor.
I'm glad to hear that.
And I feel like there's a lot more to explore.
There is.
And we're just getting started.
We've only just scratched the surface.
Exactly. So we'll be back in just a bit to continue our deep dive.
Okay, it's good.
Into this fascinating CPU.
I'm excited.
Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a chance to, process all that information about the Ryzen 7 9800X3D while we were away.
Yeah, there was a lot to take in.
There was a lot, and we're not done yet.
Not even close.
I'm excited to dive back in. Where should we go next?
Well, one thing we didn't get a chance to talk about yet is overclocking.
Overclocking. Oh yeah, that's a big one for a lot of enthusiasts out there.
It is, especially for gamers who are, always looking for that extra edge in performance.
Absolutely. So how does the 9800X3D handle overclocking?
So it's a bit of a mixed bag, I would say. You can overclock it, but the potential gains are a bit more limited compared to some other processors.
Interesting. So, I mean, I would have thought that, a powerful chip like this would be, ripe for overclocking.
Yeah, you would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But it really comes down to the unique architecture of this processor, particularly that dense 3D V cache configuration.
Right.
The way that the cache is stacked can create some thermal constraints.
Gotcha.
When you start pushing the clock speeds really high.
So it's not really ideal for those, extreme overclockers who are always trying to squeeze out every last bit of performance.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's already running at, very impressive speeds right out of the box.
Right. And you've got that 3D V cache doing a lot of the heavy lifting anyway.
Exactly. So for most users, the gains from overclocking wouldn't really be worth the potential risks.
Okay, and those risks being?
Well, increased heat generation, potential instability, and possibly even a shorter lifespan for the processor if you push it too hard.
Yeah, you don't want to fry your chip.
Exactly.
So it sounds like it's best to just, appreciate this processor for its strengths right out of the box.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Rather than trying to force it to do something it's not really designed for.
Yeah, it's a powerful machine as it is.
Absolutely. All right, so shifting gears a bit.
All right.
Let's talk about a feature that often gets overlooked when discussing high-end processors, integrated graphics.
Oh, yeah.
So we're talking about the graphics processing unit that's built directly into the processor itself.
That's right.
The Ryzen 7 9800X3D actually has integrated RDNA 2-based graphics.
It does.
Which, I gotta be honest, that's not something I usually think about too much.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at processors at this level.
Right.
Because, I mean, if you're investing in a high-end CPU and a dedicated graphics card.
Right.
Why do you even need integrated graphics?
It's a good question. And, for a lot of people, they won't.
Right.
But it's there for convenience and flexibility, I would say.
Okay.
More than raw power.
Gotcha.
Think of it as a backup plan.
All right.
So if your main graphics card ever fails or needs to be replaced, you can still use your computer for basic tasks without having to wait for a new card.
So, if you need to browse the web or check email.
Yeah, exactly. Simple stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like having a spare tire in your car. You might not need it often, but it's sure nice to have when you do.
That's the perfect analogy.
Yeah. And I imagine for content creators, this could be really useful.
Absolutely.
If they need to,
They might need to quickly switch between displays.
Right, or troubleshoot.
Graphics-related issues.
Without interrupting their workflow.
Exactly.
That's a really nice little bonus.
It is.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Now, earlier, we talked about the 9800X3D being suitable for moderate workloads. Can you elaborate a little bit on what that means in practical terms for content creators?
Sure.
What kind of tasks would fall into that category?
So moderate workloads would typically encompass tasks like video editing, graphic design, web development.
Gotcha.
Even some light 3D modeling.
So we're not talking about, like, the next Pixar movie.
No, not quite.
But, like, if I'm a YouTuber editing 4K videos or a graphic designer creating, high-resolution images, this processor could handle that.
Absolutely.
Without,
without breaking a sweat.
Breaking a sweat, yeah.
You definitely notice the benefits of those 8 cores, 16 threads, and that massive L3 cache.
Yeah. Everything would feel nice and snappy.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's definitely a capable machine.
It is.
But if I'm working on something, truly demanding, like rendering complex 3D animations or processing massive data sets, then I might want to consider stepping up to that.
Then you might want to look at the
Ryzen 9.
The Ryzen 9 or the Threadripper series.
Right, those are the heavy hitters.
Those are the big boys, yeah.
But for,
for a wide range of content creators.
A lot of people.
Especially those who also want a great gaming experience. The Ryzen 7 9800X3D is it's
a good sweet spot.
Yeah, it's a great balance of performance, price, and power consumption.
It's a compelling package.
It is. It is.
We've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about the specs, the performance, gaming, content creation, overclocking, integrated graphics. Is there anything else we need to know about this processor?
I think we've hit all the major points.
Okay.
The key takeaway here is that the Ryzen 7 9800X3D is a truly innovative processor that pushes the boundaries of what's possible.
It's been an eye-opening experience for me, I've got to say.
Good, I'm glad.
Yeah, this whole 3D V-Cache technology is, like I said, a game changer. And
That's what it really is.
I can't help but wonder how it will impact the future of processor design.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Will other manufacturers follow AMD's lead and embrace 3D stacking? Will we see, even larger caches in the future?
It's hard to say.
What other innovations are on the horizon?
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be following the world of technology, that's for sure.
Absolutely. But before we get too carried away with, future predictions, let's bring things back to the present.
Okay.
We've shared a lot of information with our listener today.
We have.
What are some of the key takeaways they should keep in mind?
So, first and foremost,
about the Ryzen 7 9800X3D.
This processor excels at gaming.
Yeah.
That 3D V-Cache technology delivers incredibly smooth frame rates and an overall enhanced gaming experience.
Especially in demanding titles.
Yeah.
And of course, it's not just about gaming. It can handle content creation tasks as well.
Absolutely. It's a solid performer for, video editing, graphic design, those other creative workloads.
So it's a good all-rounder.
It is. Yeah. It's not a workstation replacement, but it's great for professionals who also want to enjoy.
Yeah, who want to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, a top-notch gaming experience.
Exactly. And let's not forget about its power efficiency, delivering all this performance
without guzzling energy.
And breaking the bank.
Right, which is always a good thing.
Always a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've established that the Ryzen 7 9800X3D is a pretty impressive piece of technology.
It is.
But is it the right choice for everyone?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And, I think that's a question that only our listeners can answer.
It depends on their needs.
It depends on their individual needs.
Their budget,
their use case.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I think we've given them enough information to make an informed decision.
For sure. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I have one final thought-provoking question for our listeners to ponder.
Okay, let's hear it.
We've talked about the impact of 3D V-Cache on current processors, but how do you think this technology will shape the future of processor development?
That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
Will it become the new standard? Or is it just a stepping stone to something even more revolutionary?
Who knows? It's hard to predict the future.
It is.
But it's definitely a question that's worth
thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think only time will tell how it all unfolds. But one thing's for certain. The world of processors is constantly evolving.
Absolutely.
And it's an exciting time to be following these developments.
It is. We'll be back soon to wrap up our deep dive on the Ryzen 8 7 9800X3D.
Sounds good.
And explore some final thoughts, so don't go anywhere.
I'll be here.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here for the final part of our deep dive into the AMD Ryzen 8 the 9800X3D processor.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? Exploring all the intricacies of this fascinating piece of technology.
It really has. And, I think we've covered a lot of ground. But before we wrap things up, I'd love to offer some practical advice for anyone listening who might be thinking, okay, I'm sold. I want this processor.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's bridge the gap between theory and practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what are some of the key things they need to keep in mind before they actually go out and buy this thing?
Well, as always, budget is a primary consideration.
Right.
While the Ryzen 7 9800X3D is competitively priced, it's important to factor in the cost of a compatible AM5 motherboard and DDR5 RAM.
Right, because those are essential components.
Absolutely. Those are non-negotiables if you want to build a system around this CPU.
Exactly. So it's not just the processor itself, it's the whole ecosystem.
The whole package, yeah.
Yeah, the whole package. All right, so budget, check. What about cooling? We talked about how all that extra cash can generate some heat.
Right.
Is that something people need to be really concerned about?
It's definitely worth being mindful of.
Okay.
A good cooling solution is essential for any high-performance processor, but it's especially important for the Ryzen 7 and 9800X3D to ensure that it's running smoothly and efficiently.
So are we talking like a massive liquid cooling setup?
Not necessarily.
Right.
A robust air cooler or a 240 millimeter AIO liquid cooler should be more than enough.
Gotcha. So it's not like a major hurdle.
No, not at all.
But it's something to think about.
It's just something to factor into your decision making.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So budget, cooling, anything else people should keep in mind?
Yeah. One more thing I would add is to consider your future upgrade path.
Okay, that's a good one.
So if you're planning on upgrading other components down the line, like your graphics card, make sure your motherboard and power supply can handle the increased demands, so you're not creating any bottlenecks.
Exactly. You don't want to limit yourself down the road.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It's about planning for the future.
Thinking ahead. All right. So budget, cooling, future upgrades, those are all really important things to consider. And I guess finally, we can't stress this enough. Do your research.
Absolutely.
Read reviews from a variety of sources.
Don't just take our word for it.
Exactly. We've given you a good overview here, but it's always helpful to get multiple perspectives.
Get the full picture.
Yeah, the full picture. All right, so before we officially wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to that thought-provoking question you posed earlier about the future of 3D V-cache technology.
Oh, yeah, the big one. Will it become the new industry standard?
Yeah.
Or is it just a stepping stone to something even more revolutionary?
It's a question that's been on my mind as well.
Yeah, it's a tough one to answer.
What are your thoughts?
Honestly, I think it's too early to say for sure.
Yeah.
The technology landscape,
it's always changing.
It's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
But what we can say with confidence is that AMD has made a really bold move.
They have.
With this innovation, and it's definitely shaken things up in the processor world.
It's like they've thrown down the gauntlet.
Yeah, exactly.
And now everyone else has to figure out how to respond.
It'll be fascinating to see how Intel and other manufacturers react.
Yeah.
Will they, come up with their own versions of 3D stacking? Will they focus on other innovations to compete?
It's going to be a fun,
an
exciting race to watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the best part is, we, the consumers, we get to benefit from all this competition and innovation.
Absolutely. We get better, faster, more efficient processors.
And that's what it's all about, right?
At the end of the day, that's what matters.
Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to get caught up in, the technical details and the competitive battles.
Right. The specs and the benchmarks.
But ultimately, it's all about how this technology impacts our lives and makes things better for us.
Well said.
I think we've covered just about everything there is to know.
I think so, too.
About the AMD Ryzen 7 9800X3D processor. It's been a truly insightful deep dive.
It has been.
I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
I had a great time.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week with another deep dive into a topic that's sure to pique your curiosity. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and stay curious.